Now, don't get mad, but I think a lot of the things that we are familiar with from the Daizenshu books are about to be torn to shreds. Hey folks, MasakoX here, and welcome to another Dragon Ball Daima review. If you've only now started to catch up with this series, now a few episodes have come out, you can check out the pinned comment below for the episode 1 review to catch yourselves up. Also, forgive my voice for being a little bit deep, but it's like 5 o'clock in the morning where I am, and also I've got a little bit of a cold. That's what you get for having a little one, and they pick up the sniffles almost every other day. But hey, it's worth it. Anyway, it seems like Akira Toriyama's really going to town when it comes to adding plenty of lore to the Demon Realm with this series. In fact, you could easily argue that with the added awareness of Sandland going about, which you do have to watch by the way on Netflix, is amazing, there is a major push for the collective to be viewed as far more complex. We're effectively getting 3 additional universes technically coming before Goku finds out about the other universes that we do in Super, as Daima takes place before the Battle of Gods. Now, essentially, the 3rd episode is all about establishing that there is a essential class system of 3 different demon worlds, and of course, we're not just going to be skipping through to the 1st world, that would be too easy. Goku's basically, alongside with Glorio and Shin, they've got to do all the quests first to get through to the 2nd world, and then to the 1st world, where the people who live there get the best perks and effectively free travel. And oh yeah, now it's definitely confirmed that Shin has been retconned quite a lot, as is potentially every single core person that had originally been born from the kaiju tree, or where it even lives, as supposed by the guidebooks. He is referred to by Glorio as a Glind from the 2nd Demon World, or at least they used to live in the 2nd Demon World. Perhaps the Glinds were purged, or like the Namekians, as we found out in the 1st episode, they escaped the Demon Realm long before it became impossible to do so. And that they do have magical powers, since he is capable of making Goku look like a demon by turning his ears all pointy for a brief moment. And also, Glinds might be seen as quite sophisticated, spoiled, snooty, looking down on people, because Shin knows of the 3rd world, but he's never been there. There's been no need to. It'll be a journey of discovery for himself too, so hey, at least he's getting something out of this, instead of just being wheeled along as an exposition machine. But when did he arrive in Universe 7, and why? He had a ship, we know that now, but did he escape from the realm himself before the warp fish system was imposed with the pin access? Was he granted access by the sacred word of the Kais for apprenticeship to become a Supreme Kai in the future, as were now possibly other Glinds? Or maybe the kaiju tree exists there, and Glinds are the colloquial term for the fruits of that tree, and the rotten fruit are condemned to the demon realm as Makaio-shin perhaps. But hey, questions for later. You can tell that there is a lot to think about here though, trust me. Havarok and I, we're going to be having a sit down over the weekend and brainstorming more for a future discussion, because this is the kind of stuff we love. And look, I'm just recording this, I can see him typing on the chat box right now. I've not seen him this stoked in years. You're going to love this. I will start this off though by saying that Warp Summer, perfect. So Toriyama, you come in one way and out the other, out the butt. Love it. Okay, moving on. When it comes to Glorio, we are starting to get more and more ideas about his character, and that he might be either a bounty hunter or just a simple mercenary, as he says that even though he lives in the 3rd Demon World and was charged by that king to get Goku to come there, which is then asserted because they liked Dabura and hate Goma since there's a huge Bender-sized statue of Dabura, but that he also does work in the 1st Demon World as well, and he might have contacts there. Shin then asks what kind of work he does, and he just says, oh, this and that. I think we can guess he kills people. And yeah, because the lighting darks, and Shin's like, what kind of work? Yep, Han Solo vibes, all right. Also, he reckons Goku can easily stop Goma, but since that would be too easy, we have to have the characters start in the bottom world and work their way to the top, and for Kibito to not get the pin immediately to get through the warp so the other characters can join in episode 5. That again would be too easy. And speaking of warps and the like, there is a tunnel that can pass through the different worlds outside of the warp, but Shin recalls it being magically blocked, and yet he doesn't recall the pin being needed to travel. So that might imply that he was a resident not too long ago, but also not recently. But either way, Goku, like us, expected the demon realm to be creepy. But it's actually not so bad on the surface, it's just quite different to what we imagined from what we got in the likes of Dragon Ball Heroes and its interpretation with Mechi Kabura, it being all dark and edgy and evil, but this is different enough to at least defy expectations, such as the gravity and atmosphere being quite heavy in comparison, which is yet another limiter for Goku's power, which makes the earlier assertion that he could easily defeat the big bad, as stated by Glorio, that little bit harder. And also, it's a little bit better than GT because there are some limiters and inhibitors on Goku's abilities. Instead of like in GT, you just go to a different planet or something like that, and essentially the living conditions there are the exact same on Earth, just with a different color palette or something like that. There's really not that much different, except it being, oh, a different world, it's not Earth. But maybe this is the kind of thing that gets more difficult with each world, or easier as Goku masters it enough to be able to transform into Super Saiyan. Don't worry, it's okay. We will get Super Saiyan and Pew-Pews later. But we do see him getting better over this episode, but that's only enough to thwart a bunch of thugs in a bar, which you would think he could take down in one hit. But it does take a little more effort than you would expect. But hey, at least it allows for a fair amount of action and well-animated hand-to-hand combat instead of it just being a, oh, I beat you now. Yeah, a simple gag. And what I also like about this world building is that, like with other Toriyama projects that are lesser known, there are simple elements to it that aren't overly pretentious, nor are they complicated. Even though the world doesn't look too threatening, it does have elements to it that are otherworldly and strange. You know, such as the straightforwardly named Sea of Darkness, which will erase anything that falls into it, no matter how strong you are, if you descend too deeply into it. Now, of course, either that's going to be coming back later to help save our heroes, or maybe it's just a simple implication that this is a demon realm and not simply a straight carbon copy of Earth. You know, not all sunshine and rainbows. As we then get a sequence with bandits, which Goku is ready to face with his fists against their arrows, ready to go, as we expect. But then Glorio just goes, boom, blasts them away with his laser gun. That's kind of both cool and funny. Goku's ready for a brawl, but Glorio's like, yeah, no, bang. Yep, definitely doing Harrison Ford proud there. And what I also like is that there are plenty of reasons to take our time with this story, as is evident with this episode. There are things like the atmosphere tearing the ship apart if they fly too quickly, allowing for us to just take in the world the characters are in at the moment. The fact that Shin didn't get the pin number to get to Kibito in time to rush things along. Goku having to adapt to not only his younger body, but also the conditions of the world itself. And then Glorio's ship getting stolen later on in a bit of pique from the thugs. There is no rush to get anywhere. Toriyama's plan is to truly embed us in this place and to get to know it. Instead of just surging through it, it's just window dressing. And we are going to be getting Vegeta, Piccolo, and Bulma later on in the story, but it clearly demonstrates that Toriyama is having his own crack at a GT-like story and taking its time and not giving up on it like the original showrunners of GT did only a few episodes in. And then by the time we got to episode 16, we were back to just basically Z without Toriyama at the helm. Toriyama's making sure this is done right, if we are going to be including Goku in it. So far, so good. I also like Shin and that he's impressed as well by the surroundings, that he doesn't know every single thing there is to know. He's completely flummoxed sometimes. I can't tell you how refreshing it is when that happens, a know-it-all not knowing something. And of course, there are fart jokes along the way when we get to the volcano scene. Goku's just like, oh yeah, sorry, I dropped one. We gotta remember, this is a Toriyama universe. Now, when it comes to the overall ambience of this episode, it's just done perfectly. What's becoming clear is that most of the stuff that we were shown in the trailers from as early as 18 months ago, the trailers, the promos and the like, it's come from only the first 4 episodes or so. We've still got plenty that is unknown to us. That means time has been taken into making sure it looks really good, and the backgrounds are very clean. You've only got to look at the overall composition, the post-production color correction, the texture of the doors, the walls, and that the characters are immersed in it, such as that hotel clerk scene, him in the shadows, the sunlight, the lighting itself when they arrive to get a room. It's the little things like that I appreciate. It's not just a flat bass, there's careful attention to the lighting as well as the sound effects. It may be a simple scene where Glorio shows his gun to get a discount on their hotel room, but the tone is excellent, as well as mildly comedic near the end. Then the shot of the morning light when the group leave the hotel, Shin wakes up to find Glorio at the door. I'm so immersed. And the bar scene where the fight takes place, it's great in of itself, even though it's not a grandiose scale like we got in Z, with Goku eating whilst fighting. It feels authentic, even though it's small in scale. And I can't recall off the top of my head the last time that happened, where the Saiyan was chowing down on something whilst taking down somebody in combat. Comment below if you actually recall something like that from before, but I can't. But I love the whole idea of, well, I did have food earlier, so, well, I guess 5 burgers would do. And again, just because the demon realm is different doesn't mean the food has to be bad. Demons can have nice, tasty food too. And you can tell I am a post-production nut. This is what I do. This kind of stuff is what gets me going. And why I'm truly enjoying this series. Sure, Super had its moments where the scenes looked nifty and the food looked really good, but there was a degree of flatness to it, which is what you got when you were rushed to have a deadline reached. Hopefully Toei and Shueisha learned from that mistake a decade ago, and that's why time was taken to make sure Daima looked just right. That work started on it 3 years ago instead of 2 months. You get these kind of visuals as a result. This is probably the most beautifully crafted Dragon Ball series I've ever seen. At points, it looks like Z movie quality. Anyway, I'm still wholly convinced in this project, and the time it's taking to establish itself. It's clearly implying that this is a labor of love, a very important project that was very dear to Akira Toriyama before he passed. Sure, a lot of the lore that we took as read from the guidebooks might be overwritten over the course of the next few months, but hey, at least it's coming from the man himself, and it's being drip-fed to us over multiple episodes instead of being shoved down our throats in massive chunks. After all, we the viewers knew nothing of the demon realm outside of the games and what they interpreted from Toriyama's notes, or something they just made up wholesale. For the casual audience member, all they would have known about the demon realm is that Deborah was its king and that Babidi took control of his mind, which led to him being eaten by Boo, and that was it. Yeah, this series does feel like a continuation of the Boo saga, but in its own arc it feels like a Z saga. I'd be very interested in rewatching the end portion of the Boo saga and then going straight into Daima to see if it meshes well together with it and is a solid and cohesive continuation when it's all said and done. We find out about the heavenly world of the Kais in the Boo saga. Now in the Daima arc, we get to see the other side of the same coin. I personally find it brilliant, and its presentation is just as good with an art style which is both modern feeling and yet feels organic instead of the overly drawn muscles and stiffness that's become the norm in the latter days of the Yamamura era. It's like we've gone back to simpler times, but it'll be okay. We'll get beam struggles and Super Saiyan eventually, all in good time.